Emma used to believe love was something that stayed strong without much effort, like a quiet river that never changed its path. And for years, her life with Daniel felt exactly like that, calm and steady. But slowly, that calm turned into something empty. Something she could not explain at first because nothing was clearly wrong. There were no fights, no harsh words, no big mistakes. Just a quiet distance growing between them day by day, and it began in small moments that seemed harmless. Daniel stopped asking about her day, stopped noticing when she changed her hair or wore something new. Dinners became silent with only the sound of forks and plates, and even when they sat in the same room, it felt like they were living in different worlds. Emma tried to ignore it at first, telling herself, this is what long relationships look like, that excitement fades and comfort takes its place. But deep inside, she missed something she could not name. She missed being seen, not just looked at, but truly noticed. She missed the warmth of attention, the feeling that someone cared about her thoughts, her feelings, her presence, and nights became the hardest because they would lie next to each other without speaking, facing opposite sides, and the silence between them felt heavier than any argument could have. Emma would stay awake sometimes, staring at the ceiling, wondering when things changed and why she did not notice it happening. She did not blame Daniel fully because he was still kind in his own way. He paid the bills, showed up every day, never gave her a reason to doubt his loyalty, but he had stopped reaching her heart, and she had slowly stopped trying too. Both of them stuck in a quiet routine neither of them questioned, until one evening when Emma sat alone on the couch scrolling through her phone, feeling that familiar emptiness. And by chance, she came across an old message from Lucas, a name she had not thought about in years. And suddenly memories came back, memories of easy conversations, laughter, and the way he used to listen to her like everything she said mattered. And without thinking too much, she opened the chat, reading old messages that felt more alive than anything in her present life. Her fingers hesitated for a moment before she typed a simple message, just a small, "Hey, it's been a while." And when she sent it, she did not expect anything. But when Lucas replied quickly, warm and surprised, something inside her shifted, something she had not felt in a long time. And their conversation started simple, asking about life, work, where they had been all these years. But it did not stay simple for long because Lucas asked questions Daniel had not asked in years. He wanted to know how she really felt, what made her happy, what she missed, and Emma found herself opening up without even realizing it, sharing small details, then deeper thoughts. And for the first time in a long time, she felt heard, truly heard, and that feeling became addictive in a quiet way. She started looking forward to his messages, checking her phone more often, smiling at things that seemed small but meant everything to her. And it was not about romance at first. It was about connection, about feeling alive again, and that scared her a little because she knew this was not something she should depend on, not when she was still married, not when Daniel was just in the next room. But she did not stop. She told herself it was harmless, that talking was not wrong, that she deserved to feel something again. And yet every night when she put her phone down and looked at Daniel sitting quietly, unaware of the storm inside her, she felt a mix of guilt and confusion because she did not want to hurt him, but she could not ignore what she was feeling either. And days passed like this, her life slowly splitting into two parts, one that was quiet and distant with Daniel, and one that was full of energy and emotion with Lucas. And the contrast became impossible to ignore, making her question everything she once believed about love and marriage, until one night she stood in front of the mirror, looking at her own reflection, trying to understand the woman she was becoming, and she whispered softly, almost like a confession, "I just want to feel something again." And in that moment, she realized this was not just about Lucas or Daniel, it was about her own heart, her own needs that she had ignored for too long, and that realization led her to a dangerous thought, one she could not easily push away. What if she stopped pretending everything was fine? What if she faced this feeling instead of hiding from it? What if she brought this hidden part of her life into the open and finally understood what she truly wanted? And as that thought settled in her mind, she knew things were about to change. Because once you start questioning your own limits, there is no easy way back. Emma told herself she was still in control, that nothing had truly crossed a line yet, but deep down she knew she was walking closer to something she could not easily return from. And when Lucas suggested they meet in person, her heart reacted before her mind could stop it, beating fast with a mix of excitement and fear. She paused for a moment, thinking about Daniel, about her home, about the quiet life she had built. But that pause did not last long because the feeling of being noticed again was stronger than her hesitation, and soon she found herself getting ready in a way she had not in years, choosing her clothes carefully, fixing her hair twice, looking in the mirror not out of habit, but with intention, as if she wanted to recognize herself again. And when she finally stepped out to meet Lucas, it felt like stepping into a different version of her life, one that was not heavy with silence. And the moment she saw him standing there with that familiar, calm smile, something inside her softened. The years between them disappeared quickly as they started talking, their conversation flowing easily like it had always been there waiting. They laughed about old memories, shared stories about where life had taken them, and Emma noticed how Lucas paid attention to everything she said, not just her words, but her expressions, her pauses, even the way she looked away when she was unsure. And that kind of attention made her feel alive in a way she had almost forgotten. Hours passed without either of them realizing, and for the first time in a long time, Emma did not feel tired of talking. She felt energized, present, and when their meeting ended, there was a quiet moment where neither of them rushed to leave, a moment filled with unspoken understanding that this was not just a simple reunion. Something had shifted, and as Emma drove back home, her thoughts were louder than ever. She kept replaying every detail, every smile, every word, comparing it to the silence she had left behind at home. And when she walked through the door, Daniel was sitting there as usual, focused on his phone, giving her a quick glance before returning to his screen. No questions, no curiosity, no sign that he had missed her, and that small moment hit her harder than anything else, because it made the difference between her two worlds painfully clear, one where she felt invisible and one where she felt seen. And from that day on, Emma's life began to change in ways she could not fully control. She continued meeting Lucas, telling herself each time that it would be the last or that she would set clear boundaries. But those boundaries slowly faded as their connection grew stronger. Their conversations became deeper, more personal. They talked about dreams, regrets, things they had never said out loud before. And Emma found herself opening parts of her heart she had kept closed for years. And even though nothing inappropriate happened, the emotional closeness itself felt intense, almost overwhelming, because it gave her something she had been missing for so long. And with every meeting, the distance between her and Daniel grew wider, not because of anger, but because of comparison. She started noticing everything that was missing at home. Every unanswered question, every moment of silence, every time Daniel chose routine over connection, and it made her feel both frustrated and guilty. Because she knew she was not being fair, she had not told him how deeply she was struggling. She had not tried to fix things openly. Instead, she had found comfort somewhere else, and yet she could not deny how real her feelings were, how alive she felt when she was with Lucas, and this inner conflict began to take over her thoughts. She would sit next to Daniel at dinner, responding to him with simple words, while her mind drifted to her conversations with Lucas. She would lie in bed at night, thinking about the warmth she felt earlier in the day and wondering why it was missing here. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized this was no longer something she could ignore or hide from herself. She had stepped into something deeper than she had planned, something that was slowly changing her view of her own life. And instead of pulling back, she made a decision that even she did not fully understand at the time. She decided she would not keep this hidden anymore, not from herself and not from Daniel. Because part of her wanted to test the truth, to see if her marriage still had something left or if it had already faded beyond repair. She did not want to continue living in two separate worlds without facing the consequences. And even though the thought of being honest scared her, there was also a strange sense of relief in it, like she was finally going to stop pretending everything was fine. And as this decision settled in her heart, she knew it would change everything, because once the truth is spoken, there is no way to take it back. And for the first time since all of this began, Emma realized she was no longer just following her feelings. She was about to confront them, no matter how difficult it would be. Emma spent days preparing herself for the truth, but when the moment finally came, nothing felt planned. It happened on a quiet evening when the air in the house felt heavier than usual. Daniel was sitting in the living room, scrolling through his phone like always, and Emma stood there for a few seconds, watching him, realizing how familiar yet distant he had become. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice came out steady when she said his name, and something in her tone made him look up, really look at her, not just glance. And for the first time in a long while, there was a tension in his eyes. She sat down across from him, her hands slightly trembling but her mind clear. She did not want to hide anymore. She started slowly, choosing simple words. telling him that she had been feeling lost, that she had been lonely even when he was right there, and Daniel listened without interrupting, his expression calm but serious, which made it even harder for her to continue because she had expected anger or confusion, something loud, something that would match the storm inside her, but instead she faced silence, and that silence pushed her to go further. She told him about Lucas. Not every detail, not every meeting, but enough for him to understand that someone else had entered her life emotionally, that she had found comfort and connection outside their marriage. And as the words left her mouth, she felt both lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because she was no longer hiding, heavier because she could see the impact of her words in Daniel's stillness. He did not react immediately. He just sat there, processing everything, his eyes no longer distracted, fully focused on her. And after a long pause that felt endless, he asked quietly, "Do you love him?" And that question caught her off guard because she had not allowed herself to think of it that way. Love felt like a big word, too final, too serious. What she felt for Lucas was strong, real, but also new and uncertain. And what she had with Daniel was different. It was built over years, filled with memories, shared struggles, quiet support. But it had faded into something distant, and standing there between those two feelings, Emma realized she did not have a clear answer. Her voice softened as she said, "I don't know." And the moment those words were spoken, something shifted in the room, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. Daniel leaned back slightly, his face showing a kind of pain she had never seen before. Not anger, not betrayal in a sharp way, but a quiet realization that things were not as stable as he had believed. He took a deep breath and said, "I thought we were okay." And those simple words carried years of assumption, years of thinking that silence meant peace, that routine meant stability. Emma felt tears forming because she knew he was not wrong. They had both believed that. They had both accepted less without questioning it, and now they were facing the truth too late, or maybe just in time. Daniel did not raise his voice. He did not accuse her. Instead, he asked questions, slow and careful, trying to understand how things had reached this point. And Emma answered honestly, telling him how she had felt unseen, how she missed connection, how she had not meant for things to grow this far, but had not stopped them either. And with every answer, the gap between them became clearer, not because of one mistake, but because of many small moments they had both ignored. And in the days that followed, their home felt different, not silent in the same way as before, but tense with awareness. Daniel started to change in ways Emma had not expected. He began asking about her day again. He put his phone aside more often. He tried to talk, to listen, to be present. And at first, Emma noticed it with surprise, then with confusion, because this was what she had wanted for so long. But now that it was happening, it felt complicated, not simple, because her heart was no longer in the same place. She was still connected to Lucas, still drawn to the way he made her feel. And this made every moment with Daniel feel like a question. Was this real change, or just a reaction to fear? Was it too late, or was there still something worth saving? And while Daniel was trying to rebuild what they had lost, Emma found herself standing between two paths, one that was familiar but required effort and patience, and one that felt easy but uncertain. And Lucas remained part of her life during this time, his presence steady, his words supportive. He did not pressure her, but he made his feelings clear in a quiet way, reminding her that she deserved to feel valued, that she did not have to stay in a place where she felt invisible. And those words stayed with her because they reflected the pain she had carried for so long. And yet when she looked at Daniel trying in his own way, she saw something else too. She saw a man who had not realized what was missing until now, a man who was learning slowly and imperfectly how to reach her again. And this made her decision harder, because now it was not about escaping something empty. It was about choosing between something being rebuilt and something just beginning. And every day felt like a quiet struggle inside her. She would watch Daniel make an effort and feel a pull toward him. Then she would talk to Lucas and feel that same sense of being understood. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized this was not just about love. It was about timing, about attention, about the choices people make when things become difficult. And as this realization grew, Emma understood that she could not stay in this in-between space forever. She could not keep both worlds alive without losing herself completely. And one evening, as she sat alone, thinking about everything that had happened, she knew the time had come to make a choice, not based on fear or comfort, but based on truth. and that choice would change not only her life, but the lives of everyone involved. Emma sat alone one night, the house quiet, but her thoughts louder than ever. And for the first time, she stopped thinking about Lucas and Daniel as two choices and started thinking about herself, about the kind of life she wanted to live and the kind of love she wanted to feel every day. Because she realized this was not simply about choosing one person over another, it was about understanding why she had reached this point at all, why she had felt so empty that she looked outside her marriage for something she believed was missing. And as she replayed everything in her mind, she saw the truth more clearly than before. Lucas had come into her life at a moment when she was already feeling lost. He did not create the distance between her and Daniel. He only made her aware of it. He reminded her of a version of herself that had been waiting to be seen again, a version that wanted attention, warmth, and connection. And that realization changed how she looked at everything, because it meant the real question was not who made her feel better, but whether she and Daniel were willing to rebuild something real instead of returning to something empty. And with that thought, she stood up, knowing she could not delay this decision any longer. The next evening, she asked Daniel to sit with her, her voice calm but serious. And when he looked at her, she could see both hope and fear in his eyes. As if he already knew this conversation would decide everything, Emma did not hide behind careful words this time. She spoke honestly, telling him that she had been confused, that she had felt alive with Lucas but also torn, that she had seen Daniel trying again, and it made her realize that their story was not completely finished, but she also made it clear that she could not go back to the way things were before. She needed more than routine, more than silent comfort. She needed effort, presence, and emotional connection. And Daniel listened closely, not interrupting, not defending himself, just taking in every word. And when she finished, he nodded slowly and said, "I don't want what we had before either. I want something better, but I don't know how to fix everything overnight." And that honesty mattered to Emma because it was real, not perfect, not dramatic, just real. And in that moment, she understood that rebuilding would not be easy. It would take time, patience, and consistent effort from both of them. And it would not feel as exciting as something new, but it could become something deeper if they both chose it fully. And with that understanding, Emma made her decision, not quickly, not lightly, but with clarity. She chose to stay and try again. Not out of fear of change, but because she believed there was still something worth saving. And after that conversation, she knew she had one more step to take, one that would not be easy. She met Lucas one last time, her heart heavy but steady, and when he saw her expression, he seemed to understand before she even spoke. She told him the truth, that what they shared had been meaningful, that he had helped her see what she'd been missing, but she needed to face her own life and give her marriage a real chance. Lucas listened quietly, no anger, no pressure, just a calm acceptance, and after a moment he said, "Then make sure you don't lose yourself again." And those words stayed with her because they were not about him. They were about her, about the lesson she needed to carry forward. And when they parted ways, there was no drama, just a quiet ending to something that had changed her deeply. And as Emma returned home, she did not feel the same confusion she once had. She felt a sense of responsibility, not just to Daniel, but to herself. And the days that followed were not magically perfect. There were awkward conversations, moments of doubt, times when old habits tried to return, but this time both of them were aware. Both of them were trying. Daniel made an effort to listen more, to ask questions, to be present in small ways that mattered. And Emma also changed. She spoke openly about her feelings instead of hiding them. She stopped expecting Daniel to guess what she needed and started sharing it clearly and slowly, step by step. They began to rebuild something new. Not the same quiet routine they had before, but a relationship with more honesty and intention. And while it did not have the easy excitement she had felt with Lucas, it had something else, something steadier but stronger, a sense that they were choosing each other again, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And over time, Emma realized that love is not just about how someone makes you feel in the moment. It is also about how two people grow, change, and stay connected through effort. And she understood that almost losing everything had forced her to see what truly mattered. Not the comfort of routine or the thrill of something new, but the balance between connection and commitment. And in the end, she did not regret the path she had taken, even though it had been painful and confusing, because it led her to a deeper understanding of herself and her relationship. And as she looked at Daniel one evening, talking to her with genuine interest, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not just comfort, Not just excitement, but a quiet, steady sense of truth. And this time, she knew she would not ignore it.